Hello writers! Welcome to my channel if you're new, welcome back if you're not. Today we have another topic video. Let's have a chat about whether or not you should write for the market. So what do I mean when I say should you write for the market? I mean, should writers look at what is selling well at the time they start writing and create something in a similar vein? I've seen a few conversations with writers about things like this, and sometimes I see comments like, you should alter your story to be more like this because it's selling well right now, or you shouldn't write that because it's not selling well at the moment. And it always gives me pause and raises an eyebrow, because writing for the current market is a little bit pointless. Now, what I'm about to say might seem to contradict that statement, but of course keeping an ear to the ground in the area of the market your book would fit into is important for writers. It's something that I need to work on myself, and I want to improve before I query my next book, which will likely be in 2022. Watch this space. But knowing the trends in your corner of the market is well worth looking into. It will show you what has market potential, what's sold in the past, what's selling now, and what trends seem to be emerging, and this can help you figure out how to query, pitch, or market your own work. It can help you to see what works well and what doesn't, if there are certain books in your genre that kind of flopped a bit. In the same vein, reading recent works in your genre or market is equally important. If you're writing fantasy, make the effort to read a couple of new fantasy releases every year. I specify new because you may have read plenty of fantasy throughout your life, which is great and advised. Writers need to read. But if you're not specifically reading newer fantasy, you'll have less of an idea of what fantasy readers are currently trying out or expecting. But reading is different to writing. Yes? Shiva wants to join in on this video, it seems. What? Sometimes she just comes up and wants nothing apart from a cuddle, and typically that's in the middle of a video. So reading is different to writing. While there are plenty of people who have been successful with piggyback publishing on popular books, you know, the kind that will pop up and said, if you loved this extremely recent popular book, then you'll love this. But you have to be in a very unique position to achieve that, because publishing moves slowly a lot of the time. So if you're in the early stages of a project, being worried about what is currently popular is of no use to you at all, and if anything, it might be hindering your chances, because by the time you write a book, get an agent, the agent sells the book, and the publisher creates and launches the book, the trend that you wrote your book for will be well and truly over. So let's talk through it, but I am going to say that I have not been through this process because I don't have an agent, but I have done my research, and these timescales are just rough estimates for the sake of examples. Every publication journey is different. Some are going to be longer, some are going to be shorter. So with optimistic estimates, let's say that you get a book from concept to query quality in the space of 1 year. Now that's already a year since you noticed the trend for the book that you are now aiming to write. And then you move on to querying, and this is a long process, and it can easily take a year or more itself, depending on how you go about it and the kind of response that you get. But a lot of agents have reply times anywhere from 4 weeks to 6 months. And in the case that you do get interest for your query quite early on, the agent will still have to request and read the entire manuscript before making a decision. So let's say you get a full request in 4 months, and it takes the agent almost a month to read it and make a decision. So adding that to the time it took you to write it, we're now 1 year and 5 months already after that trend has started. And if the agent is interested and decides to sign you, then by the time all that lot is sorted out and the contracts are finished, that could perhaps even be another month, maybe, while all the details are worked out and any stipulations that they and you want to make are incorporated. So we're at 1.5 years now. Then a lot of agents tend to suggest edits, and let's say they don't have many edits and it takes them a month to suggest them and it takes you a month to make them. That is now at 1 year and 8 months since the start of that trend. And then when it's ready, your agent has to query your book to publishers on your behalf. And again, this can easily, being on submission can easily take another year or longer in some cases, but let's go with an optimistic estimate of 6 months. So say you sell your book within 6 months. That puts us at 2 years and 2 months since the start of this trend that you're writing your book for. And then it can take between a year and 18 months for the publishing house that bought your book to actually launch it on the market. Let's go with another year to keep things rounded. So that is a whopping 3¼ years-ish since you first saw the trend. It will most definitely be over by then. So yeah, I would say don't worry about how your book specifically will fit into the current market until the later stages of the project when you're nearing absolute completion. Being too concerned too early might be really restrictive for you as a writer and for your project. So keep an ear to the ground for trends, definitely, because when you query, you are going to need comparison titles. And it's already really useful to know what trends sold well, because that will give you an idea of knowing whether your book is likely to sell reasonably well, you know, because the market has picked up on that type of book in the past. So you also know then that there are readers for that kind of story out there already, if it is a similar book to others that came to light via a similar trend. But if you can't see where your book is going to fit into the market or find a good comparison books for it, that's not a particularly bad thing in my opinion. Some writers think that they have to do what has been proven as popular in the past, but that definitely isn't true. Where do you think all of the new trends come from? It comes from people doing something the market has never seen before, from writers that stray away from the safe and the familiar and the previously proven. So believe in your story, even if it's completely different from what traditionally sells, because you may just be able to start a brand new trend. This video has really just been my thoughts and advice on the matter, but yeah, I think the more that you worry about this early on, you know, the more you worry about the way that your book is going to be received in the current market, whether it will be liked or not, whether it will be popular, the more you are going to freeze up when it comes to actually writing. And this is especially if you're a newer writer who doesn't have an agent or much experience and this is your first project. Worrying about the market will only make the task of writing that book seem way more intimidating and impossible. So save these concerns for later down the line when you know what your story has become and where it might fit, instead of trying to fit it into an existing mold. A lot of writers don't realise that the books coming out this year were probably bought by publishers well over a year ago, so the market is kind of behind the actual industry buying and selling trends by at least that length of time. So basing what you write on what readers are buying right now isn't that useful, because they are buying what publishers were buying over a year ago, and the publishers are the ones that you'll be selling to, not the readers, initially. I hope that makes sense. So the reason I say this is because I want your stories to be what you want them to be, rather what you think the market needs them to be. So the market is going to meander and change course for truly great stories, so there's no point swimming against the current of what you want for something that may well turn to follow you eventually. Those are just my thoughts. I would love to hear your thoughts on this matter in the comments. How much do you think a writer should keep the current market in mind while they're in the early stages of a project? Let me know, let's start a discussion. That's it for this video. The next writing related video will be coming in 2 weeks' time. As always, stay safe, look after yourselves, and I will see you on the next one. Bye guys.